Hey everyone, and welcome to the channel. Today I'm going to be talking about The Night by Will Wight, and this is book 3 of his Last Horizon series. So this is his series he started writing after Cradle. I am a little worried about the series in general because it seems like he is kind of dipping back into that Cradle well. I don't think the series is as popular as Cradle, and so I know he just had that huge Kickstarter to go back and do the animations and stuff for Cradle. So this is a series I'm maybe a little bit worried about, so this is another reason why I'm doing this review. Get the word out about how great this series is. This is a really fun series. It is, from what I understand, very different from Cradle. So Cradle, and please correct me if I'm wrong about this if you're a Cradle fan, is that is a progression, like, lit RPG story. I haven't read it yet. I plan on reading it at some point. I own all of the books, so I have got to at least give it a shot. But, you know, the characters start out very weak and kind of progress their way up and have all kinds of challenges and stuff along the way. That is not the same here for the Last Horizon series, and we'll get to the individual book here in a second. But in this series, our characters are already kind of the strongest in the universe, and they're kind of going up against universe destroying level stuff. So I know some people struggle with that kind of concept. I know a lot of people like to diss Superman, who is my favorite superhero, because he's so powerful, like, oh, he's so strong, there's no challenge. We all know it's going to work out. And it's like, sure, whatever. If you want to look at it that simplistically, I understand. But there is a little bit of that in the series where we are starting with characters who are so above and beyond, like, the struggle level. They're so powerful. And to me, that is actually really fun. I think it makes it for a fun series. This is definitely more of a popcorn series. This isn't going to have like the deepest themes and make you question your existence and all of that kind of stuff. But you're going to have a fun time if you dive in and read the series. The first book is called The Captain, and each book seems to be named after a character or a station on this ship, The Last Horizon. So the captain, the engineer, and now the knight. Now, the knight is, I think, the reason it's my favorite book of the series so far, and I did give this a 4-star rating. I think part of it is I have finally settled into the world. I'm familiar with all the characters. I feel like I understand where the puzzles or the pieces on the board are, and so I'm just like in the world now. I've got that. There's not that initial hump of like learning what's going on anymore. And so maybe that is, you know, making me a little bit more biased towards this series. But this book was fantastic for me. And maybe it's because it got me out of my reading slump, but I really had a good time with this book. So once again, I'm going to sing its praises throughout this review. The first thing I want to mention is that this book is pretty action heavy, and I think it is really well done. We follow the knight who is named Ryan, and we'll get to him a little bit more when I talk about him as a character individually. But he is, you know, a fighter. He loves to fight. He's all about fighting. But I think that the action in this book was the best of the bunch. I think there's some really interesting things that happen. The main character of the series, the captain, Varric Valinar, he has lived 7 lives. This is 15 pages into the first book, you understand. And so we're finally getting some of those pieces pulled into the current timeline and the story. And I think some of the action that happens with him and Ryan is fantastic. I'm so glad that we got to see some of that stuff. Also, I don't know if Will Wight has just got more in practice, and so he's getting better and better at writing action, but in this one, it didn't feel as messy. In some of the other books I've read in the series, the action felt messy, is maybe a little strong, but this one felt more streamlined, more practiced, almost more polished. And so I really appreciated that from you know, a reading perspective. I will have to say the plot in this book is probably the weakest of the first 3, but to me that was fine. To me, this is a plot that is really setting up the next arc of the series. This first little bit really, I think it's supposed to be 7 books. And the first 3 really felt like we're kind of getting our footing, we're getting all of the crew, we're getting all the people and setting things into places where we need to be. And this book, the plot of it at least, really seemed to be shooting us towards like the next arc of the series. So the next 4 books, I think, we'll look back to book 3 and really understand that, like, okay, everybody is kind of where they needed to be now, and we're moving forward from there. And so obviously you can't talk too much about the plot, book 3, don't want to spoil anything, but I do feel like it was the weakest, but also extremely important moving forward for this series. But for me, what really made this book, the action is probably number 2. The number 1 thing for me here was the characters. So Ryan is a character that I think in most series I would not like, but I think he just fits this world so well, and he's so well done in this universe that while he would normally annoy me, he's actually probably my favorite character. I don't know, him and the main character, Varric, are, you know, it's neck and neck right there. He is just so overly positive and so overly like power of friendship. Like it's kind of like a joke, but like actually the power of friendship is his power. Like that's where he gets it all from. And he also has this big mechanical thing that, you know, makes him like a mech, and it's just awesome. And just that positivity that happened in this book, maybe it's because I was in such a reading slump, but that like can-do attitude was just so well done here. There's also a moment where some bad things happen, and another character comes in and just, I always talk about that I'm a moments reader. And there's a moment where he comes and does some stuff that it's just next level stuff. And it's one of those moments that, like, this isn't my new favorite book of all time or anything like that, but it's one of those moments that I'm going to think about for a really long time. Anything with a big display of power like that is going to be a fantastic time for me. So I'm really glad. And the characters, there's some other ancillary ones in here, but it was really a Ryan story, and I was here for it. Ryan is just such a good time. And so I'm glad that we got to spend a decent amount of time here with him in The Night. If you have read The Night, definitely let me know what you thought of it down below in the comments. I know I saw the person who introduced me to the stories, Matt from Matt's Fantasy Book Reviews. He said this was his least favorite of the series, which was crazy to me because he's liked the first two way more than me, and now I like this one way more than him. So that is kind of an interesting twist. If you have not read this series, I do highly recommend that you go and at least try The Captain. It's super short. It's not a big time commitment. The audiobook is super well done, so definitely read that and let me know if you are persuaded to maybe try it out now that I've been talking to you about book 3 of this series. But that's all for me, and as always, have a good one.